Hello and welcome back everybody, Levi here, and today I've got a brand new deck tech here for you. I'm revisiting an idea I've had on my channel a couple of times. It's for my zero drop creatures. However, we've got a brand new commander out of Edge of Eternities to talk about because this takes the idea in a little bit of a different direction, and I think it's really interesting. The commander I'm talking about here today is Xu-Ifrit Osteoharmonist. It's 1 black for a 2/3 human wizard. It says tap, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a skeleton in addition to his other types and has no ability. Activate only as a sorcery. So the way I see most people building this deck online is they're just trying to put in giant creatures into their graveyard so they can reanimate them just because they have bigger toughness. Even though they don't have any abilities, they have really big power and toughness so they can, swing for a lot of damage. The way I actually built this deck is putting in those zero drop creatures like Market Back Walker. It's XX for a 0/0 construct. It says this creature enters with X +1/+1 counters on it, or X is the amount of mana that you paid. So if our main target with our commander's ability is this Market Back Walker style of card, all we have to do is tap our commander to get basically 3 separate triggers. The first one you get is a leave the graveyard trigger, so I have payoffs for leaving the graveyard. The second one is entering the battlefield, so you can do more payoffs for that. I don't have as many ETB effects, but I have mostly dies and leaves the graveyard, but you could do more ETB if you wanted to. And then obviously the last one is the dies trigger, and basically all you need to do is just load the deck up with a bunch of payoffs for doing one of those 3 things, and you can repeatedly do that with your commander over and over because it doesn't cost any mana. So I'll go over some of the payoffs here that I have for doing this little recursion thing with our zero drop creatures, which we have about 10 of, by the way. One example of a good payoff being Blight Mound, 2 and a black for an enchantment. It says attacking pest you control get +1/+0 and have menace. Also, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So there's several ways we are going to be dealing damage to ourselves in this deck, mostly with our card draw. So having a little bit of life gain in the deck is definitely going to help us out. So tokens obviously being one of the ways we can get those payoffs off of our zero drops dying all the time. Other cards like Obnixilis Unshackled is another great way to get payoffs. There is somewhat of a +1/+1 counter theme in this deck, and Obnixilis is definitely one of the best ones. For black for a 4/4 demon with flying and trample. It says whenever an opponent searches their library, that player sacrifices a creature and loses 10 life. It's not an or. That is an insanely taxing ability. However, that's not even why we're playing it. It says whenever another creature dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on Obnixilis Unshackled. So every time that you tap your commander to bring back one of those zero drops to the field, that puts a counter on your flying trampling demon. You can be closing out games really quickly with this guy, no doubt. Similarly to that one, I have Sadistic Glee. It's an aura, and it says whenever a creature dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on enchanted creature. Even better because this one also counts your opponent's creatures dying, not just your own. I didn't want to throw in too much aristocrats into this deck because I felt like it was a little overdone, especially in mono black. So one of the only ways that I have to do that in the deck is a card like Soul Enervation, 4 mana for an enchantment with flash. When it ETBs, target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. So it's a removal spell. Also, it sticks around and says whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it is aristocracy, but it's in a little bit of a different format. I didn't want to throw in the regular just Blood Artist type of effects in the deck because I feel like that's done to death, and I'd rather get some other sort of payoffs than just pinging your opponents every time something dies. Next up, I'm going to talk about some of the card draw in the deck, mostly revolving around when our creatures die, we get some sort of effect like Body Launderer, 2 black for a 3/3 Ogre Rogue with Death Touch. It says whenever another non-token creature you control dies, Body Launderer connives, which means you draw a card, you discard a card, and then you put a +1/+1 counter on the Body Launderer for each non-land card discarded this way. So it is helping us out in 2 ways. You're drawing cards, you're also discarding the cards that you want to put in your graveyard. There are other recursion pieces in our deck to, recur some of our big giant beaters like the Obnixilis. So if you want to cheat the mana cost, you can do that with Body Launderer. Just pitch him into the graveyard. Then you're also getting counters on the Body Launderer, and he has Death Touch. So nextly we got Fang Fearless. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that last one. Ice. I don't know what that says. 2 and a black for a 2/3 human warrior. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, you draw a card and you lose 1 life, but only once per turn. Like I was saying earlier, life gain is somewhat necessary in this deck because a lot of our engines that draw us cards are going to be losing us a lot of life. So eventually we're going to run out of life. So you don't want to be having 3 or 4 of these. Whenever something dies, you lose the life triggers and then not have any way to gain that back. Another new one, absolutely fantastic fit in this deck. I usually don't throw in like $10 cards into my decks, so you can exclude this one if you want to have it a little bit more budget, but it just fits so perfectly in the deck. I had to talk about it. It's Taval's Judgment. 2 and a black for an enchantment. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. You either draw a card, you create a treasure, or you create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. Literally everything you want to be doing. Obviously drawing cards and creating treasures is good in every deck. However, we're also trying to do the token thing. We have lots of cards in our payoff category that are creating tokens. This is another one of those effects. And our ramp is mostly consisting of cards like Pawn of Ulamog, 1 black for a 2/2 vampire shaman. It says whenever Pawn of Ulamog or another non-token creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you basically create one of those Eldrazi spawns that sacrifices himself for mana. I have like 5 or 6 different ones like that. I wanted to do more of those engine style effects as opposed to just the one shots like like, you know, Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, which you definitely can throw in here. I don't think it's very necessary since our engine is very easy to get going. It's only 3 mana for our commander, and then remember the other creatures cost 0 mana, so you just have the Ponavula Mog out, cast the 0-drop, that's 1 death trigger, so you get 1 Scion, then you bring it back with your commander, you get another Scion. So getting ramp I don't think is going to be very hard in this deck at all. Last category I'm talking about here, the utility. Just some cards that don't really fit into the other categories but really help propel our deck forward. Now we're not only going to use our commander's ability on our 0-drop. Say we have our Obnixilis in our graveyard and we can bring it back with our commander. It's not very useful because it's just a 4/4 and it has no other abilities, but there is ways to reset those creatures so that they get their abilities back with cards like Conjurer's Closet. 5 mana artifact. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. So what that does is basically treat that Obnixilis as a brand new fresh creature, and it will have all of its abilities. You can do that every turn with your Xu-Ifrit if you wanted to. There's not really many other ways to blink creatures in mono black, unfortunately. There's some really janky ones, but I didn't feel like it was really worth it. I just threw in Conjurer's Closet for like that one-off chance. Considering we don't really need a sacrifice outlet or anything to kill our 0-drops, it's really easy to get that engine rolling. And if you throw in cards like Magerite Stone, you can just get even more value as the game goes on. Magerite Stone, 2 mana artifact, pay 1 tap, untap target creature. It has an activated ability with a tap in its cost. So basically what this does, you just pay 1, tap this, and untap your commander. So that way you can get 2 triggers off of it as opposed to just the 1. Orc Lore Mage, fantastic in any deck that wants to play with its graveyard. 2 black for a 3/3 human warlock. Tap, search your library for a card, put it into your graveyard, then shuffle. And if it's an instant or sorcery, you put a counter on this guy, which is never going to be because you're always going to go grab either your, you know, your 0-drops, or if you already have your Conjurer's Closet out, just go throw in, you know, one of your giant beaters and then reanimate it, blink it, get it back into play, cheating that mana cost. Really handy, especially because it's repeatable. You know, I have this in several decks myself, and I feel like it just sticks around and gets you so much value, and nobody seems to be killing it very much, at least in my play groups. But another really good recursion piece here, besides our commander, Oversold Cemetery, 1 and a black for an enchantment. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Seeing as how there's not that many untappers in mono black, yes, I have like 3 or 4, maybe 5, but you're gonna want extra recursion just so you can get that engine going even more. Piling counters on your Obnixilis style of effects, getting more tokens with your Blight Mound, things like that. You want to do that as many times as you can per turn, and cards like Oversold Cemetery really helps out with that. And then I'd be remiss to not talk about my favorite card in every 0-drop deck that includes black, obviously, which is pretty much all of them. Shirei Shizo's Caretaker. I have to talk about this interaction every time I make one of these decks because it's just insane. When you actually see this happen in play, it blows my mind. 4 and a black for a 2/2 spirit. Whenever a creature with power 1 or less is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step if Shirei is still on the battlefield. So how this works, basically you have your Shirei on the field and you cast one of your 0-drops, or you bring it back with your commander. Doesn't matter. One of the 0-drops comes in, it dies. Shirei at the beginning of the next end step says, okay, that guy died this turn, so it brings it back to the field and it'll immediately die again. Then Shirei checks on your opponent's end step because your end step's already passed, so it's looking for the next end step. Oh, that one creature that you had, the Market Back Walker, it died the previous end step, so I'm going to bring it back on this end step, and it goes again and again and again. So basically for every 0-drop you have, it comes into the field and dies every single turn 4 times per turn rotation. I hope I explained that correctly, but basically what Shirei does is it reanimates all of the 0-drops that you've played that turn and repeatedly gets you all those dice triggers and all those triggers that we're trying to get in the deck. So absolutely Shirei is the most powerful card in a deck like this. It's super fun once you have that out, and to see the look on people's faces like, wait, that's how that works? Yes, that's how it works. I have it in my current 0-drop deck, which is with Satoru the Infiltrator. It's absolutely an amazingly fun deck to play. I'll leave a couple of links over to the other 2 0-drop decks I have in the cards. But that's pretty much it for my Xu-Ifrit Osteoharmonist deck. This commander didn't really seem that fun to me at first because it's just like you throw a bunch of Eldrazi in your graveyard and then you reanimate them to get a bunch of 10/10s. Yeah, that's cool and all, but you're just playing big stompy at the end of the day. But if you don't really care about them having no abilities because they're dying right away, like with the 0-drops, you can really build an entire deck and strategy around that. The cool thing about it is you have your recursion in your command zone, so you don't have to put as much in your deck, so that way you can put more payoffs. Also, they die right away, so you don't have to have a lot of sacrifice outlets either, so you don't actually need a lot of pieces to get this whole engine going. You just need your commander, 1 or 2 of your 0-drops, honestly usually just 1, and then just some payoffs to get some bonuses, some benefits for doing the thing. So really cool deck. If I didn't have Satoru, I'd probably be putting this one together myself. I don't think I want 2 0-drop decks, but if you guys like this video, go ahead and let me know down below what you think of it. Also, if there is a commander you would like me to build for you, go ahead and check out my Patreon. I build decks for my patrons. Go ahead and click the link down below. That's pretty much all I've got for this video, everybody. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, take care.